Okay, let's look at the stats and what I found on my own to make evident that alpha predator male agency bias in humans, males, men especially, does exist. Along with the stats in the prior post about this, where about 97% of the most some of the most extreme forms of crime, pedophilia, sexual assault, and murder, are committed by men. 97%. From what I've also seen, the vast majority, almost all of them, of mass shootings are committed by afflicted men. Afflicted meaning afflicted with this illness, these alpha predator male uh, illnesses. 99% of wars, mental illnesses, I'm sorry, 99% of wars, from what I've seen, started by afflicted men. 100% of genocide, hundreds of thousands, of backlog rape kits. All pedo organizations I've researched are headed and led by afflicted men. They consider themselves, these pedophile organizations, as activists. They think that their sexuality is non-harmful and is part of the LGBT spectrum. Uh, and they actually marched. There's dozens of these things, by the way, and they've actually, back in 70s, I think, they marched with the LGBT community. NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, that was the big one that was marching with them. They were eventually ousted by the lesbians of the LGBT community. 1885, age of consent was 10 to 12 in 1885. So pederasty was very normal for the patriarchal social structure. In patriarchy, there's all these abusive laws. No one has rights. Men can, or an alpha state, can kind of do whatever they want. They can molest children, beat their wives, sexually assault them, have slaves, and just have all these abusive things that they can do. And that's where we come from. That's what evolves, and they can't help it. I should say the man's mind state can do whatever it wants. That hosts the man. Um, and when this pederasty was very normal, but once we start to grow out of patriarchy, it becomes more abnormal. So it's sort of slavery, sexism, stuff like that. But it's still very normal, though. We still have that remnant of the patriarchy and its perceptions, its laws in our own society, and in especially some other places where it's very, very patriarchal. So historically, and also historically, more evidence for this. There's just this uh, of more evidence of the alpha predator male agency in man's mind states. Uh, Historically, there is this global enslavement of women, children, and other men by afflicted men within the family and large-scale society. So all of history, what's evidence for alpha predator male agency? History, all of it. All of recorded history is evidence of that. And it's just this enslavement of men, of other men in these huge societies, and enslaving his own family. And whereas women and children are treated as slaves he can abuse. Now, another interesting point to support alpha predator male agency is the double standard for women versus men. For example, when men have lots of sex, they're often commended. Player, you're getting some, whereas women are harassed, or the whole. And another one is when Venus Williams, her confrontation with the ref, the star tennis player, she got tons of flack for what she said to the ref, and I'm not saying that it's not right what she did, and I'm not saying that at all. It's in the heat of the moment, and as with all of the other male athletes and stuff like that too. I'm not saying that I just don't like them or those athletes, but there is this double standard, which she yells at the ref, okay, but let's say and everyone's like, whoa, 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 whoa. But let's say Conor McGregor, love the guy, or his opponent, I believe his name Khabib, love him too. They go out and literally he goes out, Khabib, and just starts fighting the crowd. He just climbs the cage and just starts fighting the crowd, and everyone's like, nah, whatever, you know. No one, no one even does any says anything, hardly, But or uh, Bob Knight, the old IU basketball coach. He physically and aggressively interacted with players and other coaches, threw chairs at the refs, hit his players, and everyone roots his name, an Indiana legend. They finally let him go, but he started coaching again for a long time elsewhere. It's like that's what's expected, I guess, of afflicted men. Men are expected to beat things and have sex with things, and they can't help it because that's what is a big part of what it means to be successful from this alpha predator male perspective. You got to be this buck that can go out and beat stuff up and have sex with stuff to spread your genes, So of course they're going to think that, violent sexual men are, that's it. They don't get criticized and, in fact, praised about how their prowess, because that is prowess from that perspective of trying to spread your genes. So why these differences in stats and expectations of women and men and double standards? So, and ancestral roles and differences in mating strategies. Uh, as I've stated, uh, so the differences in stats is because of ancestral roles and differences in mating strategies. As I've said, uh, the differences in mating strategies seems to impact the agency, the mind state of man and the groups he forms. But what's also affecting this difference in stats, and I've covered this a little bit, uh, is the adaptation distribution of ancestral humans. And adaptation distribution to recover, you have a group of animals, right? And they have a adaptation distribution amongst them. So, for example, in ants, some ants, the queen will have an adaptation distribution that helps her serve her function of making a bunch of eggs. The workers will have adaptations to help them serve functions of defending, uh, excuse me, getting food, and some ants even have like their own specialized warrior caste of ants, but another one though is drones. They have drones which impregnate the female, the queen, and help her lay eggs. So you have this group of animals. There's four: the warriors, the workers, the drones, and the queen. And there's an adaptation distribution amongst that group. See, the queen's just laying eggs all day. The warrior's got to be big and strong and kill things. The worker's got to keep just working until it dies, until it's just drowned in dust. Poor things. And then the drones have the best life. and you know and that's their adaptation distribution. And then with humans, this is also true. You have the man and the woman, and there's adaptation distribution amongst them and their ancestral origins, which helps the uh, uh, them to serve their functions. The women, uh, so we'll go over the men first. Hunting and oppressing animals outside of the group. That's one of the big functions of the ancestral man. So also, and thus he has evolved adaptation distribution. His adaptation distribution is one in which the adaptations help him serve this function. He's going to be more warrior, more hunty, predatory. So, but also one of the functions is potentially hunting and warring on other bands of humans for territory. So, in their functions and in their adaptations, men sacrifice the health of the system, the health of their own system. They're very prone to danger, doing dangerous things. The the health of and also the health of the system around them. Go out and hunt, kill something, bring it back. So they do this so everyone can better survive. Uh, but it's like it can get a little bit more sour and go a little bit more wild when they start doing it to other bands, though, where it's not just like I'm going out and hunting for food, bringing it back, blah da da da. Here you go, wife, love you, and see you later. I'm gonna go get some more food. It's like, oh, I'm going out and, like, conquering other bands of men and taking. It gets real dark, and they assault the women, and that's and spread their genes that way, and they just it's a conquer, and uh, it's just the assault, but and sometimes it's almost like they've evolved adaptations to do that. See, when it's like small scale, the tribes start off kind of small scale, and then the agricultural revolution happens. It gets more and more brutal, as I was saying, and these kind of more brutal functions are eventually selected for, and they start having these adaptations, which make them do these very sad things. It's like it's their technology and knowledge gets more advanced, but their ethics gets worse and worse, which is a deadly combination. Because if your ethics are worse and your technology's better, you're going to be using your technology for ever more destructive things, and that's what's happened with Earth. It's technology, knowledge, knowledge over like biology, etc. But it's ethical knowledge, just crashing down, and then their technology goes up, and then boom, and they just blow them. They either degrade themselves or blow themselves up. They just destroy themselves with their unethically used Technology. So, uh, yes, so that's like a big thing with men's adaptation distribution is they're very sacrificing of the health of the system, their own system, the health of the systems around them. Um, and if this is in a way very honorable because they kind of sacrificed in their own system the health for the health of the system, the health of their kids. So, but it has this kind of dark path it goes down, though, that gets selected for it, where it's not just about sacrificing uh, your health to help the health of your kids. You're like sacrificing your family members to send the dominance hierarchies in like Rome, for example. So, and they can't help that. We love them. So I get them out of that. Men have adaptations selected in them, distributed in them, to perform their alpha predatory functions. They have, on average, 25% thicker skin, feel less pain, have higher bone density, stronger muscles, usually taller. Uh, and in almost every sport, and I love watching women. If women's sports are on, I'm not a huge sports guy or whatever, but I find equal entertainment in watching women and men perform in sports. But uh, on average, men perform better in sports and athletic competitions, and of course they do. Because hundreds of thousands of years of evolution has made them into athletes to to serve their functions, ancestral functions. But it's a double-edged sword. So because it's not just physical attributes, it's not. Making civilization isn't about athletic games, not being aggressive and beating people. It's about being familial and cooperating with people. It's more of this woman thing than this more athletic male predatory thing. So because it's so these physical, there's this problem that men inherit, and it's this what I call alpha predator male inheritance, or macro alpha predator male inheritance, or patriarchal inheritance, which simultaneously makes them more athletic, stronger, more physically strong, I should say, uh, more. The best way to put that is more physically able to prey on the system, because that's really what it's about. It's not so much that they're more athletic. Men were evolved to be soccer players and football players. No, they're evolved to be predators, and that's why they're athletic. So, but it's not just predators in their bones and their muscles, it's in their minds. And this is where the huge double-edged sword is. Yeah, they may be able to outperform in athletic competitions, but on civilizations, like this alpha predator male inheritance that makes them stronger, have stronger bones and muscles, that makes them really good at these athletic sports, also coincides with mental adaptations, these predatory mental adaptations that make them uh, literally unable to make civilization and destroy themselves without the assistance of females or children. Uh, you know, they just kind of, and I would say God, uh, they have a very low probability of ever surviving and becoming a civilization because of this alpha predator male inheritance, which makes them really good at athletic games, etc., but makes them predators because it makes in mind too. And so the societies they create are predatory. Generally, I mean, it's not so bad much when they're small scale. It's not so bad, but once they get large scale, then that kind of stuff really starts getting selected for. Excuse me. So to survive as a civilization, we must play a civil game where the goal of the game is to honor the system's rights, to maximize health. Maximize health, sort of like what a mother does. The woman's ancestral role is in raising a baby to honor that baby's rights to increase its health. However, what maximizes the number of genetic replications in males is when they play alpha predator male games. So such predispositions get selected for instead of these more feminine ones. That alpha predator male game strategy of domination and sex wins and is very prevalent in the biosphere, but such games degrade the health of the physical systems of Earth. So uh, it's not selected for in later in civilizations. Uh, so man has evolved to play these predatory games, and he's evolved a mind to do it, and he's evolved a body, skeleton structure, skeletal system, and muscle system, and all kinds of systems to help him do it. And that's why he's really good at athletic games, but about the worst he could ever be at civilization games, and he can't help it. So he starts out because, and we all have to remember that we start off as females. But as males are embedded, but males we all start off as females, even males, so it's in them. Females in them. They got to get in touch with that side of themselves, where it's not so much about just spreading genes. So males are embedded with like sleeper genes that activate changes in the phenotype later on in their development to form them into part alpha predators to serve ancestral functions and maximize replications. So it's not boys. Those genes are activated more later in life when they become men, and they can't help that. And also in tandem, it's not just men. It has to be in tandem with an oppressive environment that does not counter such genes, and often instead those environments exacerbates them. The boys are very much victimized in extraordinarily heinous ways by these uh, sleeper genes that turn in the memes, memories of this patriarchy. So I don't think it's the male sex; it's men that have developed, and it's not really men. It's like men are the prime carrier of this thing. this illness. Um,